Welcome to Vitalify Unplugged. You're listening to your hosts, Gry and Steph.
In this podcast, we talk about everything health and well-being, science and technology, and ancient wisdom.
This is for the quirky humans navigating the messy middle, looking for the path to true vitality.
It's for the curious minds and tired bodies looking for clarity, energy, and inspiration that works your way.
Welcome back to Vitalify Unplugged.
Hello, it's your friend Gry, intuitive AI and tech whisperer, 60 plus full throttle and talk energy bunny, here to unleash potential and celebrate fun, fairness, and freedom.
And I'm Steph, holistic nurse, soulful scribbler, magnetic mama, dancing through midlife with truth, magic, and messy, very messy, wild-hearted freedom.
Today, we're closing the season with a conversation about money, choice, and what it really means to build a life that fits. Because money touches so much more than numbers. It touches safety, freedom, identity, and options. And for many women, it also touches shame, pressure, and that quiet question of whether they are doing enough, earning enough, or somehow being enough. So today we're exploring a different possibility. What if money was a tool for choice, not a measure of your worth?
So can't wait to get into that. And today we are joined by Linda Miller, psychologist, mindset specialist, author, consultant, and wealth identity coach. Wow, cool resume.
What a
Linda brings together psychology and real-world investing experience in a way that helps people break through the emotional barriers, shift fear-based patterns, and build a more grounded relationship with wealth. And what we love about Linda's perspective is that she understands money is never only about money, and it's absolutely about identity, safety, self-trust, and the stories people carry about what they deserve and what is possible for them.
And I can totally vouch for Linda's approach, being one of her coachees, if that's what it's called, in the Wealth Identity Program. But Linda, before we dive in, we'd love to hear in your own words, who are you and what life has shaped you the way shaped the way that you think about money, mindset, and creating a life by design rather than by default?
Thanks, Gry. Thanks, Steph. Very excited to be here. It's an interesting journey with money and with wealth, as it is for many, many women. You know, top line is I'm a psychologist, but when you scratch the surface, as with all of us, there's a lot more to learn and to understand. You know, I came from a family of accountants. So, of course, being a rebel, I decided to become a psychologist, as you do. Normal.
Why not?
So, you know, I actually spent my whole life surrounded by financial knowledge, but somehow that emotional connection or the emotional relationship with money was never thought about, never considered, and not by my family, not by me even. And as we all do, I inherited this set of unconscious rules about money, and they were modeled by them. They were felt and absorbed by me before, you know, when I was a kid, before I could think rationally and make my own decisions and ideas about those things. And, you know, at the end of the day, we don't realize how much we're taking on just unconsciously, and we've got no control over that. And my family, even though they were accountants, they had that typical conservative, even scarcity-driven outlook on money. And I inherited that. So then, you know, fast forward to I'm a grown-up and I've got grown-up responsibilities. And, you know, that sort of going through adulthood, having a family, having work, growing and all that kind of thing also came with a lot of financial pressure. So, you know, kids' school fees, because, you know, we made a decision we wanted to give them that gift, community expectations, and that clashed with my scarcity outlook. And so there was never enough. And I had this also, because of that scarcity outlook, this like self-imposed ceiling on what I could or should be able to earn. And so there was a lot of financial struggle and also anxiety. And what I thought was a cash flow problem was actually a self-worth problem. And that got worse and worse and worse, to a point where I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I had to go on medication. And I was on medication for quite a few years. Took me a long time to connect the dots that it wasn't that there was something wrong with me. It was that I was living in this chronic financial threat state, and my nervous system was just exhausted and depleted. So, you know, I think one thing for women to understand is that financial anxiety is first a nervous system issue before it's a mindset issue, because, you know, your body keeps the score. And
So sorry to jump in there, Linda. I just want to resonate, because I feel like so many women will be relating to your story in some way or another, because that worthiness is kind of measured by money, whereas
very much.
a lot of the work that we do is often unrecognized, unpaid, you know, and so therefore when you can't, unseen, unheard, you know, all the uns. And so I just want to resonate. I feel that story in myself, and just recognizing worthiness and the nervous system, that has been a big key in starting the process to find my worthiness. So I'm really excited to dig in more. But can I just ask, was there what was that point or turning point in your story with money and your relationship or investing that you might be able to share with our audience?
There was a catalyst which just took me down a completely different path. And, you know, we're doing the school fees thing. We're on the treadmill. We got to a point where we were paying the school fees on credit card, and then we couldn't pay the credit card. So it's literally a nightmare, because my kids were happy, but it wasn't sustainable. And so we had to pull them out of school. We had to pull them out of private school, which first world problem. But, you know, there was a lot of expectation around us around that. But when we did that, it opened up a whole new world. It was all of a sudden, like, my business exploded, because I didn't have this millstone around my neck. So I wasn't stressed and I wasn't anxious. And so suddenly I was earning more money, increasingly more money. Kids responded to the fact I was a lot calmer. And actually I went off the medication within a couple of months of that happening.
Wow.
And never went back to it. And, you know, they went back a year later. We were able to get them back there. And, you know, it was still a bit of a challenge at times, but my mindset never went back to that place of scarcity, because I realized that my natural state is actually abundance, and it is for all of us. It's just, it gets drowned out by the scarcity that we can get put into us as well. And so that was what changed my behavior, but also changed my mindset to one where I could start to look at investing and understand money as a tool and not have it rule my life.
That is a powerful shift, and one that I've shared with my friends or talked about recently, and it's not quite landing, because I feel like you have to be there to understand that, but it's a journey to get there. But on Vitalify Unplugged, we like to explore wealth in a much broader sense than money. So when you hear the word wealth, what does that mean to you?
It really doesn't. Money is just a tool. And sometimes it's not even relevant. To me, wealth is having choice, having freedom, having joy. You know, there's so much wealth in those things, experiences, opportunities. You know, the world opening up is what wealth is about for me.
And I think that wider definition, I certainly resonate with it, feels especially important for this conversation. So today we're talking about financial well-being, enoughness, and the freedom to design your life. And because for many women, money has been loaded with all stories. We've all got them. I've definitely got them about security, survival, status, success,
Yes,
self-worth, all those things. But in this season of life, there's often a deeper question underneath that. What is enough for me right now? And what do I want money to make possible? And it's a question my partner and I often ask ourselves because we're in our, well, I'm in my 60s, he's nearly 60, you know. And so we start talking about retirement. I'm going, I don't want to retire. That's not something I want to do. I want to be always working. But what he means is financial freedom. Right? When he says retire.
It's choice.
He doesn't want to have to work. It's choice and freedom, right? So so it's really about what is enough. What do I need to make my money make possible?
Yes, yeah.
So
I think
I
it's
guess-
interesting. Go on.
Yeah.
Go, Linda.
It's all about you, Linda.
I think that's a nice change. what I think is really interesting is that what is enough changes with the seasons of our lives.
Definitely.
And
Totally.
you know, in our 30s and 40s, we're focused on the race. You know, and what enough looks like is very different to in your 50s and 60s, where you start looking a bit more forward rather than at survival. And you're thinking, you know, is there an actual goal here? Like, what am I doing this for? And I guess that's where the financial freedom, and particularly freedom, that concept of freedom really comes into play. You know, what are you doing the financial stuff for? Is it for security? Is it, you know, for experiences? And the thing that happens also at a psychological level, and they've done research and found that there are distinct life stages through a person's existence. And when you get to from about your mid to late 50s to early 60s, it stops becoming about, as I said, about the race, and it starts becoming about meaning. And the other thing that happens, and the other thing that happens at a psychological level is your brain, all those defenses that you've built up, all the, how would I put it? You'll pardon my use of the colloquial, all the bullshit which we've bought into as a survival mechanism stops being meaningful. And the defenses that we built up to keeping the train on the tracks, because that's what's demanded or expected, those defenses start to crumble too. And you start questioning everything.
Yeah, man. I'm in that. I'm in it. I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah. I've been through it, sister, and I've come out the other end.
I don't know if I'm quite out on the other end, even though I should be.
Well,
No,
there should, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, because everyone does it, you know, at a different pace.
In their own
And,
way.
you know, depending on your life circumstances, maybe that means you get there sooner, maybe it means you get there a bit later, but we all get to that point.
What I find really interesting about what you're talking about, because I'm a bit of a psychology nerd. I love neuroscience and psychology. It's like where I could sit in that space and talk about it for ages. But what I'm loving about what you're bringing to the table is that intersection of where psychology and wealth and money is rarely only practical. So what are some of the common emotional patterns that you see people carrying around about money?
You make us
There's a
talk
lot
about
of-
this in your coaching, don't you?
Yes, I do. Here's some thoughts I've maybe had previously. Look, there's a number of things that people bring to the table when it comes to thoughts about money and wealth and those sorts of things. And, you know, there's very much this fear, and the fear works in a number of ways. The fear is sometimes, you know, are they enough? Are they able? You know, are they capable? All those sorts of things. Or it could be fear of losing money, or it could be fear of not being, you know, as I said, not being good enough or not knowing enough. And so they don't try. You know, fear around being different to other people, which also all of these things, you know, cap a person's capacity to really, you know, fulfill their potential, because we're not born knowing any of this stuff. We're not born knowing how to manage wealth. We're not born knowing even how to make, you know, it's the people around us that we've, you know, knowingly or just by, you know, chance surrounded ourselves with that that pick up on and either create that fear or alleviate it. So fear is a big one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's also a lot of shame around money.
Yeah.
And again, you know, that can be an extension of the fear, but it can be also, you know, that there's beliefs around, you know, well, you shouldn't really think about money. That's not quite, you know, it's not polite sort of thing. And that's our generation, I think, especially, and particularly in Australia, our generation, that was very much, you know, you don't talk about how much you get paid, and you be modest about what you would ask. Yeah, you would be modest about what
everything.
And the companies were buying into that because they're going, now we can pay people.
Yep. Yes. True. And people have this perception of themselves as, you know, I'm not good with money. You know, all these limiting money beliefs that they take on because of the shame and because of the fear. And they assume that that's their personality rather than a learned behavior or a learned pattern.
So it's almost like, sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
No, so it's almost like people think they've got a money or a strategy or a systems problem, but what they actually have is a story problem, right? So, and I guess full disclosure, I'm a participant in Linda's Wealth Identity Mastery Program through Breakout Solutions. So I see a lot of the things that come out. I'm living it, right?
Yes.
But maybe you could share a little bit, Linda, about how fear and shame tend to show up in financial decisions.
So it sends people mostly into a conservative pattern, but there are times where you can be, you know, we call it FOMO. It's a pretty common investment term, fear of missing out. And so, you know, that can cause people to have these knee-jerk reactions with their investing, and it's never a good outcome because it's not coming from you know, research or rationality. It's a knee-jerk reaction. You know, our brains are seeking safety, and safety comes from conformity. And so there's this drive, if everybody else is doing it, I better do it too. It must be right. But people, you know, the other thing I guess that happens is that people spend according to their habits and they earn according to their fears. So that also, I mean, it's important to let that
Can
land,
you repeat
actually.
that? Yeah, can you repeat that? Because I feel like that I needed to hear that
people
again.
spend according to their habits and they earn according to their fears. And you see the same patterns in investing.
We've got to take that snippet out.
Yeah.
We got a soundbite.
That feels like a mic drop, you know?
Yeah.
I have not thought of that in that way. That is, cool. And so then in that, how does money get tangled up with one's identity and their personal sense of worth?
Because people, you know, and it's partly Western society, I guess, that we're brought up to connect what we're worth with what we're worth financially.
Yeah. Why are we doing that? It's really annoying.
It's really annoying. And it takes a conscious, you know, we need to make a conscious choice every day not to have that be our value, because that is, and I'm not saying that it's not good to go for wealth and be successful and those sorts of things, but it should be about what you do, not who you are. And I think one of the gifts of midlife is that if one allows it, and I guess I have allowed that, I've allowed myself to not be perfect. And the shortest path, you know, clients constantly say, how do I build my self-esteem? How do I build my self-worth? And to me, the secret is not building your self-worth. It's building a capacity for self-forgiveness. And that's actually the path to self-worth. Because, like when you realize that, you know, none of us are perfect. And you know what? No one really cares what you're doing, even if you think they do. No one cares. So be yourself.
That's the story that you're telling yourself, isn't it? And that is, would you say that's like a nervous system protection? Like your body's telling you that to keep you safe. Like
to keep you safe.
Do that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
if you do that, they'll reject you because you're wealthy, and then it's better just stay in this zone.
Stay in your box.
And then you can and then,
Yeah.
you know, everyone can relate to you.
Yes.
But if you,
And that's a big one for women, you know. And
yeah.
again, you know,
Being
I'm
relatable.
harping on our generation because, you know, it's relevant here that
totally.
we were brought up to be helpful and generous, but the emphasis was on relationships rather than success. And you know, there are different families. You know, I guess my family was somewhat forward thinking in that way. You know, I've got amongst my siblings, I have 2 sisters, so 3 girls, and we were all, you know, it was very clear from day dot that we were told, get a profession.
Yeah.
They all went for accounting.
Definitely.
That's their problem. So no disrespect to accountants out there. We need you.
I love you.
And
Thank
important
you.
to have a job
Very
as an
important.
accountant, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
and you
Yes.
do need to build relationships because we were brought up to, you know, be nice and build relationships and things like that. And those are absolutely essential business skills and investment
Yes.
skills and everything.
Yes.
You need those
Yeah,
skills as well. And they kind
totally.
of get all their feminine skills. No, they soft
Yes.
skills and all their
Yeah.
feminine
But
strengths.
what happens,
Bring
what
them on.
actually happens is that virtue, it can be a virtue or a vice depending on the situation. And yes, you absolutely need to be building relationships and having connections with people. And that's a human need as well as a pragmatic business need. At the same time, that can come at a cost when we're in a situation where we feel that it's not acceptable for us to be earning significantly more than our partner. Or, you know, and I think, Steph, you alluded to it before, that if, you know, if you're earning more than the people around you, than your mates, are they going to think you're up yourself? Or, you know, are they not going to, you know, not going to be so accepting of you or respect you anymore because they, you know, they justify it as, oh, yeah, she's on another level. She thinks she's all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, communities can be like that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, where poverty, you know, depending, you know, poverty can be seen as a virtue.
Right. And giving all your time and energy for free is seen as martyrdom. Like, you know, like,
Yes.
oh my
Virtuous.
God, look how much, you know.
A
But
good person.
It's not just that it's seen like that either. It's also that internally, like the number of people I've spoken with, as I'm like I've always been a helper and a people pleaser and that sort of stuff, and
Generous.
giving away things
Yes.
for free. But then I'm going, you know
Yes.
what? Women are doing so much for free, right? But there is also an innate. It's not just what society expects, but it feels good to give.
Yes.
And it's not just
It really
external. There's
does.
actually something
Yeah.
internal that drives that
Yes.
desire to give. And sometimes,
Yes.
and there's been plenty of tests on this about whether you know, getting people to contribute, and where they tested where people get paid a little bit, paid nothing, and the ones who were paid nothing were the ones that absolutely contributed most because it felt right to do it. So it's I can't even remember where that research, because I listen to the radio a lot and I get all these little, you know, snippets and things like that. But one of the things we want to, and I think this links into it quite well, and one of the things we wanted to explore was really enoughness, you know, being enough and not too much. Oh, no, that's me.
We love that
And
about
me,
you,
don't worry.
Gry.
Yeah.
So what does enough mean in this season of, like, it always we sort of blink a little bit when we say our age or our season, because there is a gap here, and we are kind of different. Yeah, I'm in my 60s, 50s, 40s, you know, and that sort of stuff. But we're still mature and wise women, right? That have lived different lives and think a little bit differently. But so what does enough mean in our season of life, if you like, or in various seasons of life, and why can that be such a hard question to answer about enoughness?
It's a good question. And, you know, the 2 parts, you know, what is enough at our stage of life, and why is it such a difficult question to answer? I think, you know, we have been so caught in the doing that to actually consciously step back and ask why and what is enough is a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
So,
And if you're not used to that self-reflection because you've been doing for most of your life, as most of us have, it's like, where do I even start?
And then that's overwhelming, right? You're like,
Yeah. And so you kind of go, oh, I don't, no thanks for doing. Yes.
But I guess
'Cause
there are
it's
societal
confronting.
expectations too.
Yes, but it's confronting, isn't it? When
Very.
you sit down and you think, well, hang on a minute. If I decide that my lifestyle or the way I'm living my life is not enough or it's too much, then do I have to do something about that?
And then what do I do about that?
Yeah. And I think this is where the self-forgiveness piece comes into play.
Yeah.
Where, it's okay to get to a point in your life where you think, I'm kind of not where I wanted to be. And whether that's circumstances or whether it's choices, whatever, that's okay. We're now at a stage of life where we can start to design what happens from here.
Yeah.
And choose to accept some of what's happened and, make choices from a place of acceptance and gentleness with ourselves, certainly not berating ourselves for, where we've landed up. Because I think, I have spoken to literally thousands of clients over the years about these sorts of issues. And I think the one thing that most people have in common is most of us end up where we didn't think we were going to be and we're not entirely happy about it.
Yeah.
That's normal
Yeah.
because we've been pushed in different directions given the society and community we live in, sometimes the family we live in, sometimes just circumstances. And I think it's problematic for us all that the common thing is to link what you earn with what you're worth.
Yeah.
Even though at a rational level we know that's not so.
Yeah.
But I also think there is an internal driver as well, because we think that others expect this of us. And I'm speaking probably from my own perspective. So I might think that this is what people are expecting from me. They don't even care. They don't even see me, right? But that is what I make up for myself. And I think a lot of people do that. And I'm going to try to remember this, give myself when I have my usual nightly 2 till 4 a.m. when my brain is spinning around, doing all the planning, thinking about all the stuff I shouldn't have done or I should have done, and all this stuff. And I go,
Gry, keep a pad next to your bed, write it down, and forget about it. You'll go back to sleep.
Get it out.
Yeah, get it out.
I did my deep breathing, my belly breathing.
Nice.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of cool because that's leading me into embodying money. Like, I think this is where money becomes very embodied. Now, I feel like embodied is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but I get it because it's so important to let it be in, process it, and then accept the good, accept the bad, and how can you work with them moving forward is kind of my understanding of embodiment.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
It's not just about logic, is it? Like you can't.
It's not at all
always
about logic. It's not, because we are, even if we like to think of ourselves as rational, the reality is we were all born with our left hemisphere of our brain, which is all the logic, executive function, all that rational stuff, offline. And it doesn't even start to come online until you're a teenager. And even then, that's debatable. And so what happens is when we're feeling stressed, the first thing we go back to is the right hemisphere of our brain, which is all the feelings and the pictures and the memories and all that kind of stuff. And that's our instant reaction. Most people, our behavior, 95% of our behavior is unconscious. We don't think about what we're doing. We don't think about how we're behaving in the moment. So, being able to take that moment and tune into your body and actually feel what's going on. Have I got a flutter in my tummy? Is my chest feeling tight? What is that telling me? Because it's not telling you you're full of the joys of spring. So that ain't happening. So,
well, what would that feel like?
Feels different, doesn't it? And you know it.
Yeah.
You know it when you feel it. But, as your cortisol goes up and, these signs in your body telling you that your cortisol's going up, you're scanning for threats and, instead of seeing possibilities. And that's actually narrowing your choices and ultimately it's narrowing your future. So
Yeah.
the first thing we need to do is, as you said, Steph, embodying ourselves literally, like regulate your nervous system first.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
once you're able to do that, then you can start to tune into your beliefs and your identity and even work on those.
Yeah.
It allows you then to separate the feeling from the fact.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering if you could expand a bit more about the nervous system and the money affecting a person's sense of safety. You know how we're
Okay.
saying,
Yes.
can you give examples and highlight? Because I really think that this is a little piece that's missing in the broader community if they're
Yeah,
not
very
doing
much so.
do you know what I mean? Like they don't. I think there's this gap,
Yes.
and I'm wondering if you can help people identify it. So when
Yeah.
they bump into it, they'll be like, "Oh, that's what they were talking about."
Yes. And Gry, you would recall this because so much of this is part of the program that we focus on because, understanding what's happening in your body first and being able to work with that is the critical things. It is literally tuning in, taking a moment, tuning into what's happening in your body before you hit the button, before you make the decision. And, it's hard to do that all the time. And, once you realize that you've already gone off on a tangent or you've already made the decision, at least then you're aware and you'll get better and better at noticing before the event, before you make the decision, rather than afterwards. But having that in mind, having that awareness, even if it starts off as being afterwards, is really important. So, we have a lot of clients who come to Breakout who have a lot of that FOMO going on. And that's why they end up in this program, because there's a group there with some proven strategies and they think, okay, so I'll just follow that and I'll be good. And they still pick up on other bits and pieces elsewhere that don't make sense and make decisions that don't make sense. So regulating your nervous system actually helps you make better financial decisions. And when you can make better financial decisions, then you're reducing that chronic threat load, if I could call it that. Starts with your body.
I really think that's such a key point. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
I wonder if there are other specific financial choices that tend to support more steadiness or agency or calm.
I think it's individual to the person and it starts with a vision because it's hard to be calm around your financial choices or decisions if you don't know where you're going and why. So a vision is partly, a picture of, say you want financial security or maybe it's financial freedom. What does that look like in real terms? So for me, financial freedom is around freedom, really. It's about being able to travel, have adventures, experiences. That's freedom for me. And so my vision is around that. And how do I feel when I have that? I feel loose and relaxed and joyful and curious and almost childlike, actually.
Yeah.
Love, adventure, all of that.
Exactly.
So that's a vision that for me is very vivid, very specific and very attuned to, I'm very aware of that. And because of that, my behavior changes without me having to be disciplined or have willpower because my actions and my choices and my decisions are being driven by, is this going to get me closer to that?
Yeah.
Because the brain...
Having a vision and a plan, right?
Absolutely. You need the plan as well, but it starts with the vision.
Starts with the vision, definitely.
The vision,
But
and
you
then
don't have to be
move into the plan.
fixated, right? Like it's about more feeling. And
it's just knowing.
It's
just
a North Star.
Yeah, it's the direction, it's feeling, it's knowing, and it's, yes, put some plans in place and be flexible and adaptable.
Right.
And, but the values that sit behind your vision. So for me, adventure, joy, family, calm, all those things are embodied in that vision. And so when it comes time to decide, should I buy some more Bitcoin I'm thinking, is this going to move me closer to that?
Yeah.
Which is really how we need to think, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's from the place of your future self. If you can make decisions saying, you know, I am, you know, Linda 2.0 in 2028 and, you know, I've made great decisions around my finances and my investments and I'm living the dream. And when you then reverse engineer back from that and say, okay, and now it's 2026, what is it, you know, is this decision going to move me towards being that person?
Yeah.
Because it's the same person.
Yeah, I love that. Right. So, Linda, you've said that fear can sabotage even the best strategies, and I'm definitely one of these people. What do people, and I'm listening carefully, most need to understand about the emotional side of investing?
I think there's a few things that a person needs to be aware of as an investor. And first and foremost is that, and, you know, I'm kind of harking back to some of the things that we've said, but they're really relevant here, that we are first and foremost emotional beings and the logic is bolted on. And so instinctively, we are going to go back to keeping ourselves safe because that's what our unconscious mind is there to make sure of, that we're safe.
Yeah.
So we are going to make decisions that are coming from that place rather than reality. So that affects people's risk level under pressure particularly. And this is where a plan is really important because if you can put together a strategy that you don't do when you're in the heat of battle, that is attuned to your vision and that, you know, makes sense, logical sense, then when your emotions spike and you're tempted to hit the button or whatever it is, you stop, you look at your strategy, which was written when you were calm, and then you go back to that strategy and that's how you respond instead of reacting.
It's interesting because we know that, you know, markets can move super, super fast, but our patterning is even faster, right? So, you know, having a plan and sticking to the plan and stopping, breathing, counting to 10, whatever you want, you know, or have something else that you need to do.
Whatever speed bump you need to put in place.
Yeah. So I wonder, I love the term speed bump, which I know from your program as well. But what is one thing that can help people become more grounded and self-trusting when making financial decisions?
Yeah, it's really, there's a brain way to do it and there's a body way to do it. The brain way is you actually ask yourself the question, where is my decision or my instinct coming from at the moment?
Yeah.
Is this coming from a place of logic or is this a bit of a knee-jerk reaction? So that's one aspect. Practical point of view, you got to walk away. You know, opportunities are like buses. There's always going to be another one around the corner. And reminding yourself of that and saying, if I take 5 minutes and go and, you know, stand out in the garden and look at nature and breathe, then if it's a good decision, it will be a good decision when I walk back in. And you know what? I think the other thing, and maybe this is a bit woo-woo for some people, but I kind of feel like
for me.
if it's meant to be, it's still going to be an opportunity. You know, whether you take 10 minutes or you sleep on it overnight, if it's meant to be, then it will be. And giving yourself the chance to think logically about it is critical.
Yeah.
And it's those small moments which make the difference.
But to me, this sounds like education, mindset, and mentorship are super important. How do people tap into that to start more intentionally with their money spending or investing? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's a lot of different...
I mean, they need to find your program first, but, you know...
we'll make sure you find that.
Yeah. Some things to go on with. Very much tuning into your body is really important. You know, examining what enough is for you, what that actually means for you. So you start to get clarity around your values and around your vision is really important as well. Making even something as simple as making one choice a week, which is deliberately aligned to your values.
Love
Might
that.
not make sense to someone else, but it aligns with your values. And you start to build that muscle in that way.
Yeah.
understanding your values and aligning with them is absolutely critical in everything
Yes.
that you do, isn't it? But
If you don't do that, then you're not going to understand why you're doing what you're doing.
so, as we go towards the end here, I mean, you've already talked about the freedom or designing your own life, and this episode is really about the freedom to design your own life. It's sort of in closing camp. What does that phrase actually mean to you personally, apart from travel and freedom?
I think it's about making conscious choices on where I spend the time, energy, and money that I have or that I want to have. So making sure that all my behavior, whether it's my financial behavior or my personal behavior, is aligned with my values, my principles, the things that I hold dear. And, you know, that becomes sustainable because it's built on a foundation of who I am and of understanding myself at that visceral level, you know, understanding from a nervous system point, you know, how to manage my nervous system and using that in a way that's good for me, good for others, good for the greater good, rather than relying on white knuckling it all the way through.
Oh, I love that.
White knuckling.
I love that.
Whitewater rafting. But
that's fun. Whitewater rafting's fun. White knuckling, not so much.
Different.
Different.
I do love it. I do love a bit of an adrenaline thing.
Yes, me too.
Must admit. Just following on from that, what shifts do you notice in midlife, women or women's in midlife when they start thinking about more freedom and peace and choice than proving themselves? What shifts do you notice as a psychologist?
I see a sense of calm start to descend and self-acceptance, which is really so beautiful when I see that in women of, you know, our age, that, you know, suddenly my mum used to have this fridge magnet, which I don't know if I completely agree with, but it's kind of along these lines. It said something like, I can't please everybody. Today I choose me.
I
think that is a brilliant reminder to women in particular, because we get everything and everybody in front of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Even if we don't know them, even if they have no idea if we exist, we still put them in front of ourselves.
We're willing to. We're willing to.
Yeah. And I think we become more judicious about who we will put alongside or ahead of ourselves as we move, you know, into this stage of life. Because we know that our time, our energy is finite, much as we'd like to think it isn't. So, you know, I see women making more conscious choices in that regard and changing their environment, sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot.
Sometimes a major shift.
Sometimes.
I'm wondering then, based on that, could you paint a bit of a financially rich life picture of what that could look like if someone chose to design their life around enoughness rather than this endless striving?
Steph, it looks different for everybody. So, you know, I guess the principles, though, are that a person has, and, you know, their vision is based on their values. It's based on a level of self-acceptance and, you know, even maybe acceptance of some limits. You know, there's no point saying I'm going to, you know, up sticks and live my life in Peru for 5 years when you've got family who love you and depend. Yeah, but maybe you've got family that love you and depend on you that you love. You know, I think we become better at, I don't like the word compromise because it feels like sacrifice, but, you know, there's something in making a choice, which is not a perfect choice, and being okay with it, being better than okay with it. You know, I think we realize, but we make our choice bigger than perhaps it would, and more suited to who we are now than if we'd have made that choice in our 30s and 40s. We're different people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that fully
Yeah.
answers the question.
But I
it's-
think it gives permission for people to choose exactly all the things that you said. Like if you make your values list and you kind of
Yeah.
start aligning in your behaviors and your thoughts,
Yeah.
that's
And
whatever
knowing who
you
you
want it to
are.
be.
Yeah. And
no
knowing
one,
who
no
you
one on the
are.
outside's telling you
No.
what your life should be.
No.
You're
And
deciding.
that's it. And the thing is that, you know, people often define themselves by their roles. You know, the number of clients I've had who I've just asked them blankly, well, who are you? And they say, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a this, I'm a that. No, that's not who you are. Those are your roles. Who are you? And who you are comes back to your values. You know,
Exactly.
you're someone, you know, who am I? I am a freedom seeker. I love my family, you know,
So almost
enjoy
contradictory.
challenge. Well, unless we can take them along for the ride. And that's the plan.
Exactly. I wonder,
So, yeah.
this is probably a little bit of the same, you know, well, it depends on who you are. But if somebody who's been listening and has spent years making financial decisions from fear, pressure, or a sense of quite being enough, what would or could they choose if they trusted that they were already enough? So it's a bit of a convoluted things like how do they kind of get to that stage?
I think first that awareness of where that place that they've been in and making a conscious commitment from their heart that they want it to be different. And then it becomes, if not the opposite, then certainly a distance away from how they were. And you don't have to change everything. You don't have to turn your life upside down. You know, for many of us, you know, a big chunk of their life is great. You know, maybe they feel that they're 60% of the way or even 70% of the way of where they want to be or who they want to be. What's in the gap? What's in that other 30%?
And I think my biggest takeout from very early on in this episode might be, don't beat yourself up for what you've done. Forgive yourself for those 30% where you think that you're not right.
You know, we all aspire to be kind to other people.
Yeah.
You know, charity starts at home.
Yeah. Inside, work from the inside out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we like to ask every guest so far on this season this question. What does, in the theme of our name, we talk about Vitalify Unplugged, what does living unplugged mean to you?
I guess for me, being unplugged is just about being able to do what I choose to do in terms of how I spend my days, my work time, my leisure time, you know, knowing that I've got everything that I need within me now. And you know, I can unplug because I'm unplugging from what's expected or demanded of me by society, by other people, you know, by everyone really. Not that, you know, I'm going to be selfish with it, but I'm not fettered by it. No, not at all. But I'm not fettered by it. I can choose which parts to, you know, to dial up or to be part of. And when I'm unplugged, it means that I'm just more joyful. I'm more intuitive. My choices are easier.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Linda. This has been so amazing. If people listening want to learn more about your work and where they can find you, please share, because I would love everyone to come and learn from you and regulate their nervous system and become super wealthy. In all areas of their life.
And you know what? I want that for people, especially for women.
Yeah.
You know, we deserve that. We deserve that. So
that's why we're here, isn't it, Gry? That's why we're here. We am so glad. Like, yeah, please.
So there's a couple of ways you can get in contact with me, either through Millionaire Investor Mindset, and website as you would expect, millionaireinvestormindset.com, or you can email me at linda@millionaireinvestormindset.com, or have a look at Breakout Solutions. I work very closely with them. I've built a program that I deliver to their clients who are men and women very often in this stage of life, mostly in this stage of life. So Gry can attest, it's highly relevant. So, that might be something to explore as well. So that's breakoutsolutions.com. And, they can find some information about me there as well if your listeners are interested.
And we might just pop in there because before Linda's program, there's a little a bit of a short training that helps you kind of come up with that blueprint or that that starting vision kind of thing. Linda's stuff goes a lot deeper than that, but but there's a couple of those. I'll see if I can pop them in the show notes as well. So
okay, sounds good.
That are coming up soon. Yeah,
sounds
now,
good.
as we wrap up, wow, so much wisdom there. This has been an amazingly powerful close to our season where Linda reminds us that money is not the measure of our worth. It's one of the tools that we can use to create more choice, more safety, and more alignment in the life we're building on whatever success looks like for you. Not for Linda, not for me, not for Steph, but for you personally.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's the deeper invitation here, not to chase someone else's version of wealth and feel that you have to be like everybody else, but to design a life that genuinely fits who we are and what matters now, that aligns with our values, as Linda says. Now, if this conversation resonated with you, share it with somebody who might need to hear it. And as always, stay curious, stay connected, and keep living unplugged.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Vitalify Unplugged. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with a friend. Hit follow or subscribe. And don't forget, we love hearing from you. So send us a message and tell us what's lighting you up. See you in the next episode.